Fellas, it's been some great playoff football. Every game has been fantastic, but the one we are all tapped in for was the big matchup between the MVPs, Josh Allen and Lamar. And we talked about legacy, right? We talked about Lamar's legacy is going to be determined by how well he performs in the playoffs in these big games, the divisional matchup. What are your thoughts on his performance and the outcome?
If you're a Baltimore Ravens fan or a Lamar Jackson fan, you obviously hate the outcome. But we all understood that this game was more than that. This game was about two of the best players in football who have met the same playoff fate. Neither Josh Allen nor Lamar Jackson has gone to a Super Bowl. And I was very vocal that I thought if Lamar lost as opposed to Josh, he'd get more criticism. Because there have been times where, in my opinion, Lamar Jackson has not shown up to stadiums in playoff games as Lamar Jackson. And I'll say this first. He has to do more because you have to win. But damn, he showed up as Lamar Jackson. Damn, this loss ain't on him. And I get it. As it pertains to the legacy of the great ones, what you do in the playoffs matter. Patrick Mahomes is the greatest football player in today's game because in the most important moments, he has found ways to help his team and to lead his team to the big wins. Josh Allen isn't talked about like Lamar Jackson because we watched Josh Allen go toe-to-toe with Patrick Mahomes, and Patrick Mahomes just had the ball last. That wasn't on him. But for Lamar Jackson, there's been this narrative, which is a fair narrative, that he hasn't shown up. But in the second half of that game, outside of the turnovers in the first, he did everything he was supposed to do, everything he was asked to do to put the ball back in Josh Allen's hands and say, you got to go win it now. The Mark Andrews fumble, that's going to be points. The Mark Andrews drop 2-point conversions, that should be points. And it's not on Mark Andrews because those two plays alone don't lose the game. I'm sure Lamar Jackson will point to the first half and the fumble and the interception and say, I got to be better. And I agree with that. But what we saw from that dude when he walked out of the locker room and you told him at the halftime, you got to go be the best player in the world, and he was. That's a step in the right direction. And for Josh Allen, I had no questions whether or not he'd show up. What he did was he showed up smart, he showed up efficient, he showed up patient, and he didn't hurt his team. And Lamar Jackson, with as well as he played, can't say that. So as I full-heartedly believe that my perception of Lamar Jackson in the playoffs has changed 100%. He's ready, he's dialed in, he's a dude that's going to show up. I already thought those things about Josh. I already thought those things about Joe. And we know Patrick is the greatest in the game. Bottom line is, though, for people to talk about you differently, for people to feel about you differently, you have to win. And again, he didn't. So he got to wait a whole nother year, as to me right now, the best player in the world, to prove that he could be the best player in the world that leads a team to a Super Bowl.
Funny thing is, we on this game, what's that? I was Kilimanjaro. Now they about to go climb Everest. Josh, you were climbing a mountain to go climb another mountain. So to your point, Patrick's the best. You got to beat Patrick in the AFC. You got to beat Patrick in the league. He's the man. But to that game, when there are two greats playing, you have to make the least mistakes, is what I saw in that game. Lamar, bro, the Ravens had double the offensive production than the Bills had. But when Joe Brady got to Buffalo, he taught Josh how to play smart, how to get a third down. Okay, throw it out of bounds, punt, kick a field goal. It's cool. And that's when Josh started taking off. That's when Josh was in the MVP race. We talked about it recently. Lamar's numbers eclipse Josh. Lamar's taking more chances. He's going out there and trying to do more. That fumble he had, he was trying to do too much. Already a high snap. Now he's getting it. Dude grabs his leg. He tried to do a spin move, fumbles the ball. He's trying to do too much work. I really saw from Brian Daboll in Buffalo to Joe Brady in Buffalo, I saw Josh's game change to, I want to say Tom Brady, because now you compare him to the GOAT. But listen, I don't have to do it all. Let me get to the next series. I get a 1st and 10 coming up here soon. And that was the difference in that game, was the first half turnovers. Buffalo was not doing anything offensively, and the Ravens were rolling offensively. But those mistakes are what made it. The legacy of it, we're going to look at Lamar and Josh after this year the same way if Patrick beats Josh's ass. That's the funniest thing. Josh missed it again, Lamar missed it again. and that's all it's going to be. You got to fight. You got to be Goliath to be Goliath. But that matchup in the AFC is going to be for years and years and years, and it's always going to be Patrick. It's going to be Josh. It's going to be Lamar. That boy in Cincinnati, you can't put him out. Old Joe's going. They're going to reload and get it up there. It's going to be great matchups coming up here. But the game of it. When you get to that pinnacle of football, where we are now, when it's the top 4 teams in the NFL, top 8 teams in the NFL, all of them are good. Who makes the least amount of mistakes? And that's where Lamar messed up, and that's where Josh thrived.
Yeah, I think what magnifies the conversation around Lamar most is how great he is in the regular season, right? And we all know that legends are made in the playoffs, especially at that position. So to echo what you said, Lamar's performance was great, right? His performance statistically was great. He outdueled Josh Allen in yards and QBR. You know, I got it 118 to like 86. But the biggest thing in all of playoffs is turnovers. You cannot turn the football over, right? You have 3 fumbles, 2 losses. You got the interception. You still are in position to go and tie the game up, though, right? And that's a credit to Lamar. It's a credit to Derek. They're running the ball. The defense held when they needed to hold. Mark Andrews, as a pro, I feel bad for him, man. I feel bad for him when he fumbled. I feel bad for the drop right there. But he's a pro. You get paid to make those big plays. You're going to be praised when you do, and you're going to be picked on when you don't. So you got to deal with it. But overall, Lamar Jackson, he's the reason why the Ravens are what they are. Let's not make any doubt about that. But it's the same rerun Ravens. Every time they get in this position, we see the same movie. And he has to be better. Some way, somehow, as good as he was, he has to be better in order for that team to get over the hump and go to the next level and potentially find their way in the Super Bowl. So, man, how do you lose a game and not have one single punt?
Yeah.
I don't understand that. It's the turnovers. It's being at a certain point on the field where you can't punt. They didn't go for it a lot on 4th downs until very late when they had to. It was the turnovers that were stopping drives and just putting those opportunities in the Bills' hand. Because just on paper, they beat the Bills, but that ain't the real world.